Welcome to today's webinar on man versus machine, what will really drive customer value. Today's webinar is presented by Redeye in partnership with Rio. My name's Andrew Furlong. I will be representing Team Man, and I'm the Managing Director of Rio Digital. I'm here with my colleague Gary.
Hi, and I'm Gary Lee, CEO of Redeye, and delighted to be standing the cause for Team Machine or technology in general. And certainly, as Andrew says, it's a discussion. It's not a new one. It's a debate that's gone on for many, many years around what is, I don't know, an emotive subject at times. But ultimately, if you look at the history, go back all the way to 1811, the first real discussion about this whole man versus machine and the effect the machine's having. Go back to then, and the Luddite movement, I'm sure most of you will know, starting in Nottingham. Effectively, it was a group that got together to campaign against, and quite violently campaign against, the new textile machinery, and actually broke into factories and started smashing them up. And it really was the first example of machinery starting to take over certain jobs. Jump forward nearly a century, or just over a century, to one of the more famous headlines of the last few years of that time: March of the Machine Makes Idle Hands. A headline from the New York Times, interestingly enough, but what it actually referred to was that this was the first time in history that we could produce faster than we can actually consume. A significant change in modern history, and one that had actually led to high unemployment in the mills and the plants of the day. And that's really where it gets quite interesting. It's only a couple of years later that John Maynard Keynes, his famous quote of technology unemployment, that really refers to the loss of jobs as a result of technology. But interesting enough, he really claimed this is only a temporary phase of misalignment, misadjustment. And really what he's referring to was the fact that as certain jobs disappear, new jobs are enabled by technology. And certainly back in 1928, obviously some of the jobs that existed then no longer exist. But I don't think anybody back then could have ever dreamed of, you know, professional esport players or YouTubers, and certainly not having half the world logging into YouTube to start watching a bunch of these YouTubers have a boxing fight. So really what we're saying is that over the years, the technology has taken over and certain things from the man, but ultimately is leading to new stuff, which it takes us up to where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably worth just trying to bring things back into the promise of the machine. As a representative of Team Man, I'm somewhat skeptical. I enjoy technology and everything it has to offer, but what we want to do is zero in on personalization in particular. Since the rise of the internet as a whole, it very quickly came about and was a theme that people capitalized on and everybody got really excited about because of the technological advancements that we'd seen. I, for one, am yet to really see personalization come to the fore. And in fact, the stats that we're looking at here on the left, 750 million lost revenue because of poor personalization. Say that again, 750 million. So, there is some skepticism, and I think it's this number kind of backed certainly my thinking up. So as great as the machines are and what they have to offer, I think there is something that's fundamentally wrong and flawed, and we're going to explore that concept throughout this webinar, and hopefully we'll stay polite. But Gary and I have been discussing this for quite some time now, and we don't necessarily agree on everything, but
we'll keep it very civil, I'm sure. But obviously, what I find interesting is if you look at the right-hand side and Gartner's prediction that actually you'll make more profit if you successfully do personalization in e-commerce, i.e. what it's basically saying, as far as I'm concerned, is that if the man was using the machine correctly, then those are actually the people that are going to make the most money. And I think the best way of going through this and sort of working through where we all sit in terms of what's more important to the future of marketing is to go for a real world example, well, an example of a fictional website and that we've invented called Rubies, and take on a little journey of somebody who's just recently purchased off the website. And obviously we're going to start with a classic. This is the booking confirmation email, straight, the first thing post the purchase that you should get. Nice, quick, delivered on time, delivered smartly because the technology's there and it's all enabled, it's all automated. Classic marketing automation in action. But already we can start adding in extra features into the technology, like join the VIP club. So already giving them a feeling that we're trying to do extra things for them, adding that value. But again, all automatically set up, purchase information, all the classic information you need, recommended products. So all built into this vast database that the machine holds, that would be impossible to give of a personalized view if it would just been left down to the individual.
I mean, if I could mute you, I would, Gary. I'm so bored listening to this. You know, there's nothing new here. What are we seeing? Is this really personalization? You know, I don't know. From my perspective, from Man, I think you know, you need to think about who actually came up with the creative aspect of this email. You know, is it really all driven by the machine? The machine really is just a fairly dumb instrument that is injecting whatever logic you know, Man has configured it to do. You know, I'm certainly not convinced that this is personalization in the way that we want it to be.
Okay, fair. I mean, interesting. I've been called worse, it has to be said. But let me take you on to the next stage of the journey, which is click and collect, because the technology has enabled them to interact not just online but with store. So we've sent them a push message, nicely enabled. Again, classic technology. Sorry, Andrew, did you want to jump in?
You're not going to defend this one. I mean, a push message. I mean, first of all, who is that? This is down to Man. We the people actually wrote this message. You know, we came up with the idea. We painfully went through GDPR to make sure that we were collecting the permissions at the right point and making sure that we were, you know, we had the ability to send the message, and we're then configuring the machine as and when to send it. I mean, great, you compile it and send it through over an SMS. Really? I mean, I'm not impressed, I have to say.
Okay, well then take me into the store then. I'm sure you're going to shine here.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I think, you know, interestingly, retailers are kind of a fork road and a split. You've got those that are struggling with their store footprint, and then we have others that are capitalizing and really transforming their personalized experience. And just to give you some examples, you know, there's Levi's, for example, offering alterations where you can personalize your jeans or your garments in store. Nice, cool little thing. Made.com, which started off as a digital business, actually has a fairly large showroom in Soho, and that allows people to go in store, to feel the fabric, to see their products, to sit in the sofas or the armchairs that they may be looking. And then throughout the showroom, you have mobile devices and tablets scattered around where you can browse their Instagram feed, you can look at the products online, and then there's a QR code that makes it super simple to scan and then make that purchase. I mean, they're really good examples of.
They do sound like really good examples of technology helping out in store.
Yeah, I think though the key is that actually without the, you know, the human influence over it, it was just a silver bullet from technology. You know, you wouldn't have what is essentially an online technology driven business like Made.com taking that initiative and that creative flair to come up with, you know, what is a modern day showroom. That comes from people. And yes, you know, having a tablet and the QR codes in there does help and enhances the experience. I still think the driving force behind that is, you know, is the person. Likewise, if, you know, you, as from a tech perspective, you can surface information, like we could remember an individual's in a retail store, and we can remember their size, but it's still down to that customer experience to provide, you know, that generally personalized experience. It's not because you've remembered their size that it's personalized, it's what you do with that information. And I think that's really the crux of the discussion here, is without Man driving those initiatives and insight, you know, the data does the lifting, not much else. Certainly, that's my view.
Let's move it on. Let's finish the journey off then. If the technology doesn't fail me, it doesn't move forward. There we go. So we look at the next stage in the journey, which is really an email follow-up to that first purchase. And really, what we're trying to do here is convert them into a multiple purchaser with the business. Any good retailers know that getting someone to their second purchase is so critical in generating that lifetime value from the customer. And already what we can see is we're populating it with, you know, this is where I feel like the machine can actually do some of the warm and fuzzy things that a marketeer always goes on about, which is we've got product videos in here, we've got the top categories that the customers are using. We've also put in something about loyalty, which I think is very important. What that does is is again reinforces to the customer that what they bought is they bought for the right reasons. Other people believe this is a good brand to buy for, and we're helping the machine, helping reinforce the brand as much as possible, but also then doing what it's really good at, bringing in the specialist data like the browse data, so we know what other products they might be interested in. We can put some other figures against those products and really start to get people thinking about the brand and actually getting the machine.
Right. Okay. No, I mean, I do wish I had a mute button. This is not exciting. People want more. Where's the emotion? Where's the empathy? You know, when we look at the website, it's just the same. You know, you've taken areas of digital assets and sliced them up and decided that a machine can inject a bit of content here, a bit of content there. You know, you're going to somewhat caricature people into segments and decide, okay, right, because they've done this certain behavior, therefore they meet this characteristic. And that's done because the machine is doing the lifting and to some extent the analysis for you. And that is just inherently lazy. So here, you know, I've just completed a purchase. If I put myself in the shoes of this particular shopper, and I'm getting recommended products based on what? You know, if I've been in store and there's a lot more information that you hold against me, really just showcasing products that are ancillary to the ones that I bought, it's just a little bit lazy and just makes it easy. It's, you know, context personalization, content personalization at best, but is it really what we expect as consumers? I'm sorry, but I'm not convinced. You know, I think this is lazy, machine-driven, formulaic personalization.
I'm becoming worrying. I'm kind of worried because I'm tending to now agree with you, which doesn't happen very often. I do think what we are seeing is that over the course of this journey, what we're seeing is that it's not. I'd probably describe it as very tactical, and that's where I think that's where we're failing to combine man and machine very well. Generally, is that we're using it for tactical events and we're not using it into the overall strategy, and that actually is where both as machine and as man we're failing in personalization. And you can argue personalization is still 10 years out of date. If what we're getting excited about is a few recommended products, then ultimately we're not really utilizing the technology. And there's a great stat from Forrester. Really, it's a list of the things that people say that are the priority in personalization right now. Every single one of those things on that list is a standalone tactical initiative. It's not about combining technology and the strategy for the good of the business overall.
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly agree. I think, you know, what's kind of happening is people and this is maybe where, you know, we do certainly agree, is because technology is for the most part really available, and, you know, the budget constraints that sit around that, yeah, they can be challenging, but the budgets alone aren't necessarily a barrier to, you know, sourcing and implementing the right technology. Things need to move on, but what's happened is, back to it, is people are lazy in their strategies, and there's a confusion here around what is campaign optimization versus personalization. So in the email examples we were going through earlier, and also on the web itself, what are we looking for there? We're looking for click-throughs, we're looking for additional interactions at a very myopic level of the experience. And as a consumer, you expect more. And I think that just within the industry as a whole, we haven't taken enough of a holistic view of what a personalized experience is. And these days, you know, the brand is the experience and it needs to be personalized. Yeah, well, here we go. These stats back up exactly, I suppose, what I'm saying.
I do think you're right. I think that first stat in particular really shows that despite the fact that technology is there, and really this isn't the case in the modern world of saying the technology doesn't exist. It's about using the right technology in the business overall. It's about having that technology hooked into your whole business strategy and having a proper personalization strategy, because if you don't, it's just technology for the sake of technology, and that's why you're ending up with these tactical projects that people are seeing. And I think that last that Andrew plays very well into what you're saying in terms of the technology is not really aligned to the strategy overall.
No, not at all. Well, I think starting off with actually a strategy, and again, a strategy is quite a big term, and misaligned is also slightly ambiguous as well in terms of how close you are. But there is a tendency to believe that the technology is going to be alone the solution to a personalized experience, and it isn't. It's an enabler. and people being misaligned to a personalization strategy, I would go so far as to say that actually a lot of people wouldn't be able to formulate a personalization strategy. And there's some hypocrisy there, because as consumers, which we all are to some extent, we can empathize with how well or how poorly brands execute a personalization experience. And yet in our lives as professionals, we don't necessarily carry that through. There's a tendency to just focus on bit parts and some small optimization and tweaks and improvements, which again are campaign performance and campaign optimization, but they aren't real drivers for growth and success. And if personalization and personalized experience is the new battleground, and your brand is your experience, you need to take it really seriously. So you need to start off with identifying the problems you're going to solve. That isn't necessarily just injecting a bit of content into an email or into a div or an element on a web page that you've decided should be personalized. It's actually, okay, what are our strengths? What can we play on? I'll come back to that example of made.com, pure play online, moved into a showroom for that, for the physical aspect. So they knew they had a problem. People were maybe less willing to purchase their products because they couldn't feel them. So they tackled that. So it's important you go through a problem solving exercise to understand the key things you're looking to address from a personalized experience, and be brave and be bold. The next part is certainly asking yourself how you're going to actually enable it. If you are both a physical and a digital store, how does that work? How do they complement each other? Some really cool examples in terms of having complete look or interactive screens in changing stores, or there's whole sort of experience centers that are now being built up. Tiffany have got one. I've seen other kind of high-end fashion retailers doing the same sort of thing, super immersive, where it's about the experience and the excitement, and you're creating that emotional bond with the customer that's kind of been missing maybe over the last decade or so. And that's what we're trying to re-establish with a personalized approach. The key part then is actually how you're going to design it, particularly if it's digital and physical. To be honest, how's that going to work? You're going to have to interact with other aspects of the business. You're going to need business leaders behind you. It's a huge endeavor, and it's something that's going to happen in a short period of time. It's part of a transformational exercise. And if the brand is the experience, you need to make sure you have a means of tracking, measuring success, so that you know that the efforts that you're going to and the endeavors you're undertaking are actually successful and are pushing business in the right way. And the key thing is that they are drivers for growth. And personalization should drive growth. It's really simple common sense. If I deliver a more personalized experience to John and to Sue, the likelihood is they're going to engage in my business and therefore repeat purchases. It's not complicated as a concept, but it's incredibly broad to get right. So do make sure you have a strategy in place and that you think about these key questions from the outset.
Hopefully we've got across the point we were trying to get, which was probably fairly blunt from the start, but it isn't about actually man versus machine at all. It's about man and machine working together. It's about building that into your business strategy and putting personalization as part of that strategy, not just a buzzword, not just a gimmick and a tactical thing, but actually making it the heart of everything you do, and then utilizing the machine as best as humanly possible and enabling the human. And that's kind of one of our big mantras here in terms of Red Eye is really about making sure that it's not just the technology, it's about utilizing that technology. Our goal has always been, we've got the best technology that can hopefully enable all those things you've seen and more, but also enable you to use that in the right way so that you maximize the technology. And that's really what it's about going forward. It's about maximizing the technology exists, maximizing the intelligence of the people in your business, and using those two things to hopefully drive personalization and drive up your results. As every article says, those who are doing personalization in the best possible way are the ones that are going to have the best results for the future.
Yeah,
hopefully that's been really useful. What we'll do on the back of this short webinar is just send a link out so that you've got a copy of this if you want to share it with any colleagues. And if anybody has any questions on the back of it, please feel free to send them over, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.